My name's Tanner Hanks. This is my capstone. I went to the Gray Wolf Summit in Arizona and was able to meet so many awesome people. Um, I've been a part of the Wolf Den since basically the inception. I bought Wolfies on day three, I think, after launch, because it took me a couple days to figure out how to make a wallet and get money over and all that kind of stuff. I wanted to try to get it on day one, but don't rush. So I took my time and got in on day three, and they've been around since then. And it's been, as most of us know, quite the roller coaster. I've learned a ton just about crypto and investing, but more just about humaning and how to be a better human and focus on removing suffering from the world. Learned a lot about myself as well. I just shared another Twitter thread about experience, um, how applying these principles has helped me improve my relationship with my son, my middle son. And yeah, so if you go read that as well. So my capstone is going to be on Nick's second talk. I think it was the first day. He talks about the two orientations. He talks about the adaptive dilemma. He talks about the Karpman's drama triangle and system reliability, which I've been thinking a lot about a lot of these things lately. And in particular the adaptive dilemma and how I've seen that affect my life over the past couple of years. So that's mostly what I'm going to be talking about, but I do definitely want to touch on a couple of the other ones. So the two orientations. If you've watched it, there's scientific and dogmatic, right? Scientific. Well, I'll start with dogmatic. Right, dogmatic is more very black and white, right or wrong, all or nothing kind of thinking. And I've grown up Christian, a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter Day Saints, and there's some things that I was taught that were pretty dogmatic with that, as a lot of religions can be, but there are also a lot of things that weren't, which was great. But overall, I was probably lean more dogmatic in my thinking than I would have. Now I realize that it was a lot more dogmatic in my thinking of on a lot of different things than I am now. Scientific orientation is more like there's an infinite number of possibilities. It's more about the probabilities and risk, having a theory and just being obsessed with testing it to understand what the outcomes are, isolating those variables, and those kind of things. Right. Dogmatic is a lot of times what people do, um, when they add just random qualifications to things that don't really matter, or quantities or things like that. Right. Um, for example, like if somebody decides I need to lose weight or I need to get healthier, right? Like for myself, I've had a lot of health issues over the past however many years, um, and I'm going to go into that in the adaptive dilemma a little bit as well. But oh yeah, losing weight, getting healthier, whatever. If I were to say, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds in 30 days, why? How is that? I've never done that before. Why do I think that's possible? And just adding that expectation and that as the result is setting myself up for failure, right? Saying, expecting the only result that's acceptable to be something you don't know if you can do because you've never done it before is kind of silly. Rather than, I want to get healthier and learn about my body and taking the steps to do that. And, okay, like right this past month, I stopped um, eating and drinking dairy products. And I've noticed a difference in how my body feels and how uh, my body has reacted. I felt a lot healthier. I've actually had some other things like acne. I had less acne and different things. So it's affected my body that way. And I didn't have any expectation for the outcome. I just wanted to test it and see what happened. I'm actually gonna do something similar with, I think, gluten. Just I've had, yeah, not that you guys care, but I've had some other digestive things. So I'm curious to see what will help. Um, Yeah, so isolating the variables, right? And then when there's an infinite number of outcomes, saying it's like if I was going to say I want to eliminate dairy so that I'll lose weight, but then I don't lose weight. It's like, well, this was stupid. This didn't work. And I would have not noticed the other benefits, the other outcomes, the other things that happen because of it, right? And I would have been mad, even though there were other positive things that happened because of it, because my one thing that I was attached to didn't happen. Keep bumping the table so the camera shakes. Sorry. I have my notes from Wolf Den or the Grey Wolf Summit. So the Karpman's drama triangle is something that's super super interesting. The more I've learned about it and reflected on it, it's really interesting seeing how it's applied and how people use it or fall into it. Right. Right now, there's a perfect example of it in my family, my extended family. I won't go into like the drama of it, but basically, my grandma and grandpa divorced forever ago. In part of that, there was something that happened that settlement wise that my grandma decided to accept that most people told her she shouldn't. And then now an, a relative, an aunt, has decided that my grandma got screwed over and has convinced her to sue my grandpa. My grandma has had no issues, has no problems. It's interesting though because it's a perfect example of the Cartman's triangle. Something happened between my aunt and my grandpa, so he became the villain, and then she was finding any way that she could to hurt him, and so she found a victim. My grandma is the victim in this, and yeah, it's really interesting, right? And you can see the drama Cartman's drama triangle in a lot of different things. I won't share some of the other places that I see it. Um, yeah, let's see. But you see it in marketing all the time. I mean, Nick talks about it all the time, but you see it in marketing all the time. Us versus them mentality, where it's like, hey, or this is the only way that you can get successful in this thing. Is a lot of that is Cartman's drama triangle, right? Anyone that tells you or tells people you can't succeed because of this, they're being that savior, making that person a victim, right? And the because of this is the villain there. So one of the things that Nick talked about in this as well is paying attention to your language. What kind of language do you use? Are you using language that portrays yourself as a victim, right? Um, and I've been reflecting on that a lot and being very conscious about the language and the words that I use and just paying attention to it first, um, to see like, okay, do I take accountability for things or do I blame, do I play the victim more often in my life? I'll go into that a little bit more with the adaptive dilemma. Um, I love this one. The adaptive dilemma is so interesting to me. I have been thinking about it a lot, right? And so the difference between in the adaptive dilemma is there's technical problems and adaptive problems. Technical problems are ones that do not require a change in behavior, right? So example that Nick used is like you step on a nail, you get a tetanus shot, right? It's a technical problem and a technical solution. It's a solution that does not require any kind of um, behavior change, right? So there's technical problems, and then technical solutions and adaptive solutions. Now, I love this, right? Because in scripture, in yeah, there's a verse of scripture in the Book of Mormon that basically talks about being uh, an agent or an object, or being do you act or are you acted upon? Waiting to be acted upon, basically. And so those are ways that the kind of this translated to me. It's like, are we waiting for something to happen to us to fix a problem we have, or are we being an agent? Are we acting or waiting to be acted upon? Are you an agent or a creator in your life, or are you an object? Right. So for me, I've realized that in my a lot of my journey to into entrepreneurship, I've been in I was in sales for a long time, and then I started my own marketing business. I guess it was about 5.5 years ago or so, almost 6 years ago. And in that, I instead of being focused on learning skills of marketing, I was just trying to um, I chose marketing because I thought I could make money pretty quickly with it, which I think a lot of people do, right? And so I started out with Instagram, and then I decided, oh, I need to offer other things because organic is hard to actually track and show the ROI. And again, I'm not saying that this is correct. This was my opinion at the time. So I wanted to be able to sell Facebook ads or Google ads or whatever. Rather than learning them, I tried to find um, like white label providers, which isn't bad, right? It's not a bad thing to do. But I didn't wasn't learning skills in that way, and I bought tons of different courses and different things and whatever. And how many of them did I actually apply? Probably not. I don't even want to think about how much money I've spent on coaching programs or courses or things like that because I had an adaptive problem, but I was looking for a technical solution. I was looking for the easiest solution, the easiest way for me to make money without having to change my behavior or do the work, do the reps, right? And I'm guessing that this probably will resonate with a lot of people um, because it's kind of human nature, right? And that's part of the challenge is we have to. Well, not we have to. I'll never mind. I say that a little differently. But yeah, I've spent a lot looking for a kind of a quick fix of like, oh, what's something quick I can do to make money without wanting to change my own behavior. Um, and so I did learn a lot of skills and a lot about. I have learned a ton about business, about marketing and stuff like that. Which I'm really grateful for. But it's not something I ever really enjoyed doing, if that makes sense. It's just kind of a means to an end. Um, Now, with the adaptive dilemma, I really like. So one of the things that with that is that when we try to apply a technical solution to an adaptive problem, meaning we try to just plug something in when the only real solution is going to be changing our behavior. That's when we become a victim, or we're playing the victim, right? Something for me a really good example of this is a lot of doctors, right? Um, my tweet about the story about my son, I shared that I was during the first couple of years of his life, I was very depressed. I was in the worst depressive episode of my life, and so I was not emotionally there to connect with him as an infant, as a baby, as a toddler, like I was with my older daughter, and now with my younger son. And yeah, so I have experienced and battled depression for a long time. Over the past couple of years, or probably year and a half is or so, I have completely come off medication. I've been able to, I don't necessarily want to say heal my depression, but kind of like I essentially where my say this is baseline, like my floors were down here, and I would sometimes get to like the baseline. You know, my lows were very low. My lows now are probably higher than my highs were then. My ceiling, my floors are significantly higher than what they were. But I still feel sad and stuff. I don't remember the last time I felt like depressed. And so I said that because a lot of times when people feel depressed, doctors will just give them medication without asking anything about, okay, so what do? What are your things that you're doing when you start to feel depressed? Because that was one of the keys for me was being able to recognize when I would start to feel depressed and basically put in frameworks and different things into my life that helped me to avoid the doom loop of depression, the shame spiral, whatever it may be, um, and changing my focus, focusing on what I do well, focusing on my strength, focusing on the things that are good in my life, gratitude, appreciation, right? Just changing what I focused on and changing a lot of my behavior. I still wasn't able to, like, I wasn't able to exercise. I've had some, again, weird health issues, but just even just changing my focus of my, like, my mental focus and things. And then again, being able to change the patterns, identify and change the patterns that I was stuck in that led to me going into those depressive episodes. I was able to come again, like completely come off my medication. Not saying that everyone can do that. I'm not saying depression medication is bad. I personally do not think it works because if it did, then people wouldn't have to be on antidepressants for 20 plus years. Um, but that's a different thing. But in general, how often do doctors just treat a symptom, right? It's like, oh, you have pain, here's painkiller, rather than trying to diagnose like what the real problem is, right? So it's a technical solution to likely an adaptive problem because pain is a signal that there's something else wrong. And it's likely something in our behavior or our actions that needs to change so we can heal that. And he talks about leadership versus authority, right? So leadership identifies an adaptive problem and provides an adaptive solution. That is what leaders do. Meaning, like, okay, this is a problem that requires behavior modification, and this is the behavior modification that's required. Now, authority does the opposite, right? They try to fix adaptive problems with technical solutions. They make the promises that, hey, I will fix this problem in your life without you having to change a thing, right? If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. And that's where a lot of politics have come in, right? That's what a lot of politicians do. Um, they make these promises of, oh yeah, I'm going to fix this and this and this. It'll affect your life this way, and then they can't because really the we are the ones that create our lives. Like that's just the reality. We are the agents. We are the creators of our own lives. So, oh yeah, he talked about dopamine without effort will destroy a person. How all of this is applied to my life. I talked about like with marketing and everything. Um, And then with my own like weight loss and health issues and those kind of things, I've gone to tons of doctors, gotten tons of tests. Essentially, what happened is I honestly don't know exactly the cause. I have a theory of it, but um, I've always been super active. And once, when around the time when we found out I was pregnant, or I was pregnant, my wife was pregnant with our daughter. We were pregnant. My first child, I went and got a new job, and um, I was coaching CrossFit, but it was basically I coached enough to be able to get a free membership. Essentially, I didn't really get paid. It was like $100 a month, maybe. Um, so I was coaching CrossFit, doing CrossFit, and then I got a new job, and my daughter was born, and life kind of got turned upside down, right? Um, and so I didn't exercise very consistently, if at all, for probably six months or so, right? At the point when I was doing it, I was probably 190 pounds, 12% body fat or something like that. I was in really good shape. When I started to try to go back and work out again, I gained about 15 pounds, um, but I wasn't able to do it. I paced myself. I slowly tried to ease myself back into it, and after about 10 minutes, I would get sick. And no matter what I tried, scaling weight, doing, whatever, I realized like, okay, what's going on? So I started having a bunch of like doctor's visits and stuff. And fast forward, they basically didn't really diagnose me with anything. It's just after these 6 years, essentially, I've gained a ton of weight and realize that now, like, okay, there's not a technical solution. Like, I've been hoping that they would say, oh, yeah, hey, here's what's wrong. Now just take this medication and now you can exercise. And that's not the reality, unfortunately. Um, so, what I've been doing is instead of not exercising ever, I've been going and playing basketball with guys from my church once a week. And even if no one else goes, I go. I just shoot around and do my own thing. I try to go on walks a couple times a week, and then we got a puppy, so it's kind of a forcing function for me to have to go outside and go on walks. A little more difficult because I hate the cold, but and it's getting cold now, but I still do it, right? And it's affected me. I've lost weight. I feel better. It's had a huge impact on my life, and it also is empowering because I am taking accountability and responsibility for my own health again, right? Um, let's see. Dopamine without effort will destroy a person. So I've seen a lot of people talking about this, and this is something that I haven't spent a whole bunch of time thinking about. Well, I've been thinking about it, but not how to apply it. But in this, I think my biggest thing is well, I guess that's not true. I've been observing my behavior and kind of what I do to get free dopamine, right? And I just multiple times a day, I'll just click on my email, go into my phone, click on my email, and just scroll through my 5 email inboxes or something like that. And I realized that's just trying to get free dopamine, right? Um, and so what I am going to do is continue to watch my behavior, continue to identify those things that I'm doing to try to get free dopamine, and then try to put a um, framework in place to regulate the dopamine better so I don't fall into those kind of traps. Scrolling endlessly, scrolling social media or things like that. I do those things. And, it's not that it's necessarily a bad thing, but I have to think about, okay, why am I doing this right now? Is it for free dopamine? What's good? So that's how I'm going to apply that. System reliability. This is something that was interesting as well because I've really when I first started in my business and stuff, I stumbled upon the world of lifetime deals and spent so much money on lifetime deals that I've never used because I was like, oh, I could use this in the future, and adding all these services and different things when I didn't even have the clients to be able to fulfill or wasn't looking for it was just silly. I wasted so much money trying to add more to my business, trying to add more and making it more complicated. What I've realized now is I need to actually strip away a lot. I've done the same thing, a lot of things in my life. I'm trying to, I realized like with morning routine, I've tried to have a morning routine that has like 12 steps or 12 different things. And what I'm trying to do now is just think about, okay, what are the most important one or two things that I need to do in the morning to set myself up for success throughout the day. And as I remove those things, it's become a lot easier to be reliable. I Part of it as well is I just yeah, never mind. But as I've removed more from my life, the system of my life is getting more reliable, um, and more reliably getting at least getting closer to the ideal outcome that I want, getting me closer to what I want, right? Um, yeah. So one of the things that Nick said is, you can increase reliability by changing the plan, which is essentially what I did. Instead of having a 12 to 15 step, hour and a half, uh, 2 hour morning routine, it's like, hey, it's 30 minutes. I can do these two, three things, one, two things. That's going to make a huge impact on my day. Until I can do that reliably, then I won't add anything more, right? The other thing, the last thing is just the importance of keeping open loops. I I love this whole concept of loops and how just the visualization that keeping an open loop versus a closed loop has affected my way to understand it, but also teach it. This concept has been awesome, right? I had a conversation with one of my sisters that we haven't had a great relationship over the past few years. Um, and there's the situation in my family. My mom has chosen to not choose a side, right? Which I kind of respect, but at the same time, like, you're just watching your family get torn apart, made assumptions. And I had this conversation with my siblings, and they explained to me why her they had gone to her, asked her why she wasn't choosing a side. And they, after hearing what she said, it's like, wow, it was a mirror for me. It's like, wow, I had so many assumptions and was totally wrong. But it was cool because I had the loops open, so I was still receptive to that new information, and I've learned how important that is on so many different levels and about everything, to keep a lot of these loops open and remain receptive to new information and inspiration as well. Um, this is really how I feel like I show up best, is just kind of off the cuff. I had my notes and stuff, but I'm getting better at writing. I'm practicing the Twitter threads. Uh, I've been um, super intimidated to make one of these capstones, especially after seeing some of the recent ones. I'm like, holy crap, these guys are. This is amazing. But this is me playing my game. I'm grateful to be part of the Wolf Den. Grateful to be part of the Guardian Academy, CCA Pack, and the Organization Growth Council, and Base Case and Build with Jay and Ann. Y'all are awesome. Thank you.